Hey, what's up? This is Toby Larson, and you're watching Shoot the Messenger. Today, we're going to talk about conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories have been around for a long time. Not everybody believes in everything they hear. Some people think that conspiracy theories are just a way to write off the truth. Some people think conspiracy theories are just a bunch of gibberish. So I guess it depends on who you're talking to, what you're going to hear, I guess. So today I've written down a list of 10 conspiracy theories that I want to run over with John and see what he thinks of these. John knows a lot about this kind of stuff, so I thought it would be super interesting to ask him a few questions on what he thought about these conspiracy theories. The first one's a good one because John knows a lot about space, and this is about the moon landing itself. There's a lot of people that don't think Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin ever landed on the moon. And a lot of the reasons people feel this way is the footage looks doctored to some people. You see the footage where they're floating underwater and it makes it look like they're in space, and they say that NASA's shooting these things in a pool. Yeah. You've seen things where they're floating around and you can see the harnesses, you can see the lines, and so or another good example is the flag on the moon. When they put that, it was waving, blowing in the wind.
Yes, it was a solar wind.
Yeah, so people, and that's
anybody that went through science class, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
There's a people go, oh, there's no wind in space. Well, there's actually, if you look this up, solar sail spacecraft. And what you do is you actually unfurl like a mylar solar sail. You have a spacecraft tethered behind it, and you can aim a laser at it. I think there's one theory you can do that, and it'll actually take off and get close to get moving pretty fast. It's a primitive way of doing it, but it's plausible to do that. So that the one that grabbed me the most when I looked at it with the Astron, it looked like he had a wire. He fell. It looked like a wire, but that could have been an antenna. Could have been just a glitch in the film or something like that at that period of time. The one thing that stands out to me the most is who couldn't dispel that we landed on the moon was Russia and China. And yes, we have high-powered telescopes on this planet, and the Russian and the Chinese during this period of time we were going through was called the Cold War. A lot of you younger people might not remember that. I do. And if we didn't land on the moon, the communist nations would have been like, oh, capitalists are liars. Look, we have proof. And everybody's like, well, they could have doctored this or did this or that. Well, recently, I think it was last year, the Chinese sent a probe to the other side, to the dark side of the moon, I do believe. And they just happened to fly over where one of the lunar modules landed, and the base of the lunar module, and there was some other gear that was left behind. The Chinese flew over and took pictures of it. Just happened to fly by it. So it's there. Now, people are like, well, it doesn't prove that people landed there. Well, it proves we landed something there. Okay. So, I mean, how much more proof do you need? When Artemis goes back to the moon, my prediction is probably SpaceX will probably beat them there because NASA can't seem to get it together. NASA. And then these sites are literally historical records of mankind's achievements of going to the moon, and we'll see when we land there. It'll probably in the next like 5 to 7 years, and we will be going back. So
one of the things I think that actually interests me when I first started hearing about the whole conspiracy with the moon landing was the Buzz Aldrin interviews. Buzz would do interviews and he would never admit that he went to the moon. They would ask him, "Did you land on the moon?" He wouldn't answer. They would ask him just to say it out loud. He wouldn't say it. And I always thought it was weird that Buzz had this thing about saying that. Just say it. Like, what's the issue? That's all people want you to do is just admit you were on the moon, and you just won't say it out loud. And people have thought that is also kind of fed into this conspiracy because, people already believe it because of those videos we're talking about. And then when people like Buzz, they tried to say the same thing about Neil. They tried to say Neil was a denier too, but they also said Neil said plenty of times that he's been on the moon. So there's a difference between like Neil
Well,
and Buzz.
there was,
know?
I think, like, what, 4 or 5 missions or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, Russia and China. And we didn't land on the moon, and there would have been nothing there. They would have like brought it out to the world. Capitalism is a failure. The Americans are liars.
Yeah.
You don't see them, but you see some, kid shoving onion rings in his mouth, sitting in a basement, at 25 years old, playing video games and feeding into this whole thing. Yeah. Sorry, not to disrespect anybody who eats onion rings.
Or plays Fortnite.
Yeah.
So that is the first of many conspiracies we're going to be going over today. But I knew that this would be a good one to start with because John knows a lot about that kind of stuff. And personally, I don't really know. I've seen all the videos we're talking about. I've seen the ones in the pool. I've even seen conspiracies of where they say they're on the moon and they're in the desert and it's literally just a big shot in the desert that they're making look like a moon landing. So I've seen these videos. Does it make me think that we didn't land on the moon? No, it doesn't. But conspiracy theories are always interesting because with the internet nowadays, it's so easy to kind of like manipulate videos and make it so much worse. When back then it was all kind of the phone game, things would kind of spin out of control throughout time. Now we have videos. We can alter with AI and all these videos. You can actually make people think they're actually seeing it now, and that's going to just make things a little bit more intense in that space. You know what I mean? So the next one has been brought up a lot lately. Actually, it's the JFK assassination.
Oh, that's a complicated one.
The JFK assassination, I fell into back in high school and was pretty fascinated with it for a little bit because I felt like I wasn't really sold on the whole Lee Harvey story either. But I was also seeing all these videos of people that were up on the bridge, the guy in the bush, in the grassy knoll, whatever. You just kept seeing all these, and I was super interested about it.
The babushka woman's another one. They never did figure out who she was. Never figured out who she was.
And what's that? Explain that to me.
There's a woman who had like a Russian looking babushka. That's why it looked like a Russian scarf on. And they never did track her down. Oh, really? Nobody knows who she is to this day.
So the reason I said it's been surfacing is they're showing now in reenactment, they're showing the video and they're slowing it down, and our technology is so good now that you can see the driver turn around and shoot him in the head. Have you seen that video yet?
No.
So in the video, I mean, I just watched this a week ago, and like I said, online, shoot the messenger. I thought it was interesting. You can see the driver. He's driving like this. He's in the right behind him on the passenger back there, and he just driving. He just goes like this, just like this. Turns around with his left hand, shoots him like this. Boom, right in the head. And I've heard that theory long time ago. Like 20 years ago, I heard the driver shot him. So I have heard that before. That's the first time I've seen a video where you can see the gun. I have never seen a video where you could see him turn around and shoot him. And if that was the case, because obviously we don't know, that is a tough one. That would be a tough one to solve. I mean, no one's going to look, 2 feet to the left.
It begs it begs the question why they want to, our government would want to assassinate the president. Yeah. And I think when you look at some aspects of some of the shenanigans that are going on, apparently Peter Lawford was a really good friend of Marilyn Monroe's, and he said he knew the real truth about Marilyn Monroe's death.
Mm-hmm.
He said he would take it with him to his grave, and he never divulged the truth. But it's pretty well known that Marilyn Monroe was seeing John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, and dating a mob boss at the same time from Chicago.
Well, it gets more complicated than that. She was also seeing one of the Kennedy brothers as well.
Okay, yeah.
So what I heard, the conspiracy theory I heard, was that she got pregnant by somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and that she said somebody better marry her because she's going to have the baby. And there was other things that were going on in the government at that time that where Kennedy was delving into the deep state. And they just want him out of the way. Now, everybody's out there, well, how did, the shooter, what was the name of the assassin again that they blamed on? Lee Harvey Oswald. Sorry, everybody. It's been a long day. Usually I remember these things really well. How'd they get him there? Well, Lee Harvey Oswald had Russian connections, which they proved that he did, and he'd been to Russia. So if the CIA was involved and our government wanted to off him and they wanted a patsy, they'd cut a deal with the Russians to get Lee Harvey Oswald there. And there was two shooters. There was our shooter and the Russian shooter.
Now, do you think a mob boss like Rudy would have offed him if it wasn't mob related?
Lee Harvey Oswald?
No, the Rudy, what's his name? It's something Rudy, Frank Rudy, or something. The guy that shot him. The guy that shot Oswald. Yes, that guy. Remember when they were escorting him out? Yep. The guy walked out,
and he just happened to be there.
You know, that guy was a well-known mobster, and so that right there makes me think.
No, there's more to the story.
Really? Okay.
He was terminally ill.
Yeah. Really?
Did you know that?
Nuh-uh.
No, he was terminally ill.
Oh.
So it was no skin off his nose to shoot him. So if you had a CIA op go bad, and they got a hold of Lee Harvey Oswald, and in the video you see Kennedy, like his head snapped twice. You see it. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to cover up, the best way is to go ahead and take out anybody who could talk, and Oswald would be like the prime thing to take out. My opinion is that Oswald was supposed to die in the building. They were going to kill Kennedy, and miraculously some U.S. Marshal or somebody would have found Oswald and shot him dead in the building. But for some reason, he ended up they caught him, and that spun the narrative in a different direction. So they had to take Oswald out. Now, President Trump's talking about releasing everything to the public.
Really?
Yeah. So I guess we'll find out here pretty quick.
Yeah. Wow.
But at the same point in time,
I thought Jackie's reaction was interesting too.
Where she climbed over the trunk to go grab his brains.
She was pretty. The way she acted was kind of weird too.
No, she acted like she was in shock.
Yeah, it was. I don't know.
I don't think she was expecting
that. Could have been it. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are weird when they act in shock because they don't act like themselves. So
anybody who went to go grab their husband's brains off the trunk,
that's great.
Is not. I mean, like it's just because she's figuring that they can put it back on him. And why would a well-to-do woman dressed to the hilt risk herself climbing across to go do that?
Yeah, I didn't even know she did that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer there's two shooters, and I think there was two factions working that day, and I think it was East and West. Yeah, and I think that it benefited. The KGB to have Kennedy out of the way, and I think that I think the CIA and the KGB had probably during the Cold War occasionally worked on things together or cooperated with each other. So that's my conspiracy theory.
This one's interesting. This one's about CERN. You know about CERN?
Absolutely.
Good.
What would you like to know about it?
I don't know much about CERN, but one of the conspiracy theories about CERN is they're saying that the Earth has been sucked into a black hole.
Actually, we went into another universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And where does that come from?
I like to bring up another thing about CERN. Did you know that when they fired it up, that they actually were worried they actually created a mini black hole on this planet? They would end our existence by doing it,
Wow.
and there was some scientists were actually concerned. So the way CERN works is it's a particle accelerator, and it whips atoms around. I mean, I guess they're dancing at the speed of light or close to, and they impact each other. They create this explosion, and they watch what's happening when all this matter collides with each other. The kind of the catch 22 is they're playing around with the tools that God used to make the universe. So, is it possible you could actually open up or time space fold? I think in order to do something like that, you'd have to have a heavy gravitational body, and then you possibly could open up a funnel.
Yeah.
Okay, but what they're doing to actually like cause a rip in time space, like open up a hole, that's plausible.
Yeah, because this conspiracy theory, when I was reading it, they were saying that they already believe CERN opened up a portal to hell. That's literally a
Well,
part of it. Hmm.
I mean, there's there's a lot of things. I mean, that have happened since CERN kicked into gear. COVID. I mean, all the chaos we've had. But at the same point in time, the thing's running right now. And if it brought us into another universe or we flipped into another dimension or however, whatever spin you want to put on it, wouldn't it keep doing it over and over again?
Yeah.
So
And CERN is so like a lot of people don't even know it exists. It's just one of those things. People have heard the name. Some people have heard it. They don't know what it is. It's just you know,
picture a underground facility, a tunnel with massive amounts of technology. And I do believe it's 17 or 23 miles
wow.
it's a big circle,
Yeah.
and they launch matter this way and that way, and they hit and they boom, and it makes an explosion. They've discovered new forms of matter. Um,
Wow.
they're playing around with literally the tools God used to make the universe.
So on the same subject, HARP. Okay, so
That's another one too. That's Tesla technology,
yeah, and they
and
they say it can control the weather.
can control your mind.
I've heard that it like. So what I read about it was they were like, don't they shoot at the ionosphere,
Correct.
and scientists are saying don't play with that. So that's big issue is a lot of people are saying, well, you don't know what you're messing with. Don't just shoot that amount of
It's
wattage
been going on for years.
into the ionosphere, and you have no idea what the effects are going to be. So some scientists and researchers think they're pushing buttons by trying to be so bold with this giant. And then there's the conspiracy is though that these earthquakes, these hurricanes, and all these things we see on our land that are destroying New Orleans is all literally controlled by this machine, and they think that they can wipe out. I remember a story I heard at Japan. We got into it with someone, Japan, some over some trading some goods, and we told them if you say no, they said no. They didn't want to do a deal with us. We told them, well, that's just going to make a bad day for you when you get hit with a tsunami, right? And then they said, what was that, a threat? And then the next thing you know, you remember about a decade or 2 decades ago when Japan had
Yeah,
that giant.
Fukushima.
They're saying that we did that and we threatened them with that before we did it. We told them we were going to do it before we did it.
I think
And I don't know how much truth that is, but that was part of the conspiracy theory.
I think the main thing you need to look at HARP um, is right before the United States goes to war. You ever notice people get agitated a little bit? I mean, people like gung ho, like yeah, let's do this. The spin I heard was to use it to actually agitate the public and for mind control to get us prepped up to go to war.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I've always heard all these things about HARP, and it's to a point where some people don't even believe it's real. And I'm like,
Oh, it's
no,
real.
it's real. It's out there. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's a
no. But
that's
it begs the question: HARP. What does it stand for? Number one,
yeah,
and why they fall in love with the acronym HARP. You play a harp, it's music.
yeah,
So if you're bouncing frequency vibration off the ionosphere, it's coming down and it's agitating.
yeah,
You could use it to get people sparked up, or if you're trying to get everybody like in a frame of mind to agree with the government. Hey, we're going to go to war.
yeah.
I've heard it's used for mind control as well,
Hmm, that's
and
interesting.
it's real.
Yeah,
As to what it does, I mean, the military is never going to admit its capabilities,
yeah,
but things leak out. People work on projects like that, and there are parties or what have you. And, you know, people say things. Oh, and then somebody will say, "Oh, you really think so?"
yeah.
I mean, like I was working in Alaska, and I asked a guy who was in the Air Force.
Hmm.
I go, "So have you ever had any see anything about UFOs or UAPs,
Yeah.
UFOs at that period of time?"
Hmm.
And he looks at me and goes, "Why do you need to know that?" And he was real defensive.
Wow.
And then he came up with some pretty cool stories a couple days later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they weren't real.
No, never
Yeah,
real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This next one, this is interesting. This is about Walt Disney. So they say Walt Disney froze himself, right?
It's a new one for me.
Yeah, and that he is sitting in one of those frozen chamber things, ready to be revived eventually, and that him and his brother and stuff had come up with devised this plan, and that Walt is actually uh, used. This is interesting. They used the movie Frozen to cover up him freezing himself. So what they did, or what the conspiracy theory was right when he decided to put himself into this, or they decided to put him in this frozen thing, they released the movie, the cartoon Frozen, to throw the analytics off on Google so nobody would see what he did. So they literally used the movie Frozen to steal the analytical tags, right? Because you know how, like, when
Yeah.
we do channels tags, so hashtags would all go to the movie instead of anybody trying to find anything on Walt. It wouldn't even pop up because everything was about Walt Disney and Frozen, the movie. So they said they literally used the movie to cover that entire thing up. Now, conspiracy or not, do you believe, because this is something I'm pretty ignorant about, I guess, do you believe people can do that?
Will it be frozen
Yeah.
reanimated?
Do you believe
No.
you can be frozen and yeah, and brought back to
No,
life? Okay.
because here's the catch. You freeze something, you're damaging the cellular structure. In order to reanimate it, the bioelectrical, because your stomach and your body is like a battery, and all the bioelectrical charges are now they're gone. Okay, in order to like preserve someone, you would have to have it where you slow their metabolism down to the point that they're barely breathing, barely a heartbeat, and they're being sustained in an artificial matter, and literally the bio the their biology is slowed down to a point that they're still alive, but they're not like everything's not moving and everything's at a crawl. Like nothing's your heart's maybe beating once every 5 minutes or something like that. And that kind of technology is well beyond us. But to take somebody and fold time space and take them into the future where they can be cured, I do believe time travel is possible, and it's not a matter of fact if it can be done. It's an engineering problem at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I could never see the science behind freezing yourself. I don't feel like it's going to stop time or anything. So for me, it's like I was curious on your thoughts because I can't really see how that even adds up in my brain on how someone thinks they could just freeze themselves, stop everything. Like I don't know. I don't. It doesn't
I
seem.
mean, I could see matter being frozen and them taking out and cloning the person, but it's not them. It's a new person.
Yeah,
It just happens to have the genetics of the other person, like an identical twin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not them.
I mean, that's an interest. I mean, and do you feel like, I mean, Egyptians and that, like, I feel like they would have dabbled into that stuff. I mean, they dabbled into a lot of that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
mummification was a very.
yeah,
I mean, their thing was all spirituality, and get ready for the afterlife, and you're gonna, a lot of Egyptian technology. In my opinion, they had outside influences. That's my that's my
right.
opinion. And a lot of things they were doing were well beyond their time. So
Well, there's always, in my opinion, and we'll move on past the whole Egyptian thing pretty quick here, but in my opinion, there's like a couple different routes to that. Like either one, they knew something, like they were a special kind of people that just were way more advanced, like almost alien-esque, or or we've just our government has been hiding stuff from us for so long and then reintroducing it to us, taking it away and reintroducing it for such a long time that they that's where they get the technology. So we look back and go, why are they so advanced? Well, because it's a loop, right?
no,
So
I think it's a little more than
yeah,
that. Human beings have been around for a quarter million, 200,000 years. And 97% of human knowledge is lost because we didn't have writing. Only 3% has ever been recorded. We're talking about maybe 6 or 7 thousand years ago. They're finding buildings and structures and things that they can't explain that were built. They're dating them to 14,000 years ago. That's when the Ice Age happened. My spin is the Egyptian culture, the Great Pyramid, the big one, was already there when the Egyptians came to that area. And that feeds into Atlantis and Lemuria. Pre-Diluvian means before the Great Flood. And a lot of I think that mankind had rose up to a technological height, to a point, and there was a cataclysm on this planet, the end of the Ice Age. And I am a firm believer in Graham Hancock's theories about comets hitting the ice packs up north, and the whole planet flooded. The Ice Age ended in about a month and a half to 2 months. Um, and there were people advanced. There was multiple different forms. There was Homo sapiens at this period of time. There were Neanderthals, and there were all different types of humanoids on this planet.